We are back after 1 week away, and the entire network is just back with a vengeance. Brian and I had to talk about the Warriors not making the playoffs yesterday, so we put that podcast up on the audio feed. Videos on YouTube if you want to check that out. And today, Brad and I are back after 1 week away. We're going to talk about the Giants finally having a winning week. They went 4-3.
Yeah, I'll
After
take
2
it.
losing weeks.
I know everybody's frustrated. We're 10-13, but hey man, a 4-3 week is progress. There were some ugly games in those 3 losses. Speaking of, yesterday's game, 2 games to the Diamondbacks. Those were ugly losses, but
Yeah.
it's the Diamondbacks.
And then with the 49ers, with We Want Winners, we have the draft, the NFL draft upcoming this weekend. Rod and I will be back Friday night and possibly Saturday night if there's news. If there's no news, just Friday night. So 3 shows this week on this very network. And, this is going to be an interesting season, as if it's not an interesting season already.
Yeah.
And I think I told you my worry about the season was that with so many different players, especially players who you're banking on these guys. You're banking on Matt Chapman. You're banking on Soler. You're banking on Blake Snell. And they're really brand new. And for Chapman and Snell, not a full camp. Soler's playing DH. He doesn't really need a lot of time, to do other things other than take BP. But my worry is just that it may take time chemistry-wise, and then we have the Alex Cobb situation. He's going to be pushed back. He got put on the 60-day DL, so he probably will not even be back until end of May, beginning of June. And, of course, Robbie Ray as well. So we have a lot of players that we are counting on who are not even really accustomed to this ball club. And it's not like these guys are going to be around for 5 years, right? So it's kind of like you got to hurry up. You got to get accustomed. You got to play in this park. You got a new clubhouse, new manager, and we got to go running. And so far, they have not. They are kind of what I thought, which is they look really good one day. And then the next game, they look terrible. And then they look really good the next game. And then the following game, you're like, how come every time they have runners on, they just hit ground balls to the shortstop? So my worry is that it's just going to be this sort of frustrating season until they have some games underneath their belt. And then we'll sort of figure it out. But where do you sit with this team after just 23 games so far?
I mean, what you were talking about there too didn't have me worried at the beginning of the season, but now I'm thinking, man, yeah, these guys, they come into this new team and it takes a while to get settled. I mean, is that going to be going forward with these 2-year deals with 1-year opt-outs, or these 3-year deals with 1-year opt-out after every year? Are guys going to come into situations and not be comfortable? I mean, look at Bellinger. Bellinger goes back to the Cubs, and he's having a great beginning to his season. Some other guys who signed late and ended up in different situations, they're struggling a little bit, except for Jordan Montgomery. He had of course, he had a fantastic outing against us Friday night. So there's that. Or was that Thursday? I can't remember which night that was. I don't exactly remember. I don't think it was the Apple. Yeah, actually, it was the Apple TV game. So it was on Friday night. Apple TV. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, the guys have to come in and get situated, and then you have to get to know everybody in the clubhouse, and then you have to get to know the coaching staff. Well, Snell didn't necessarily have to do that because he played for Bob Melvin and a lot of the coaches on the staff last 2 seasons. But yeah, it's kind of hard to watch. I think I'm at the situation and the point now where I look at it and I say, look, I'm not panicking. I'm not freaking out because, I mean, the Dodgers are 2 games over 500 at this point of the season. That's obviously going to change. We joke about it now. We will look at it and we go, oh, the Dodgers are, 13-11, haha, or 12-11, or whatever they are. But we know that's not going to last forever. Their starting pitching is a bit rough. Their bullpen is a bit rough. So if they don't change that, it could be a tough season. But they are at some point going to start kind of pulling away from everybody else. So you can't really look at the Giants and say, well, we're only 2.5 games back. No, you got to look at the wild card and see what. The National League West is not going to be one of those things we're fighting for in September.
Probably not. Probably
No,
not.
if we are, I will. I don't know. No, I'm not going to swallow my AirPods. I don't know what I'll do. I'll do something fun if the Giants are actually battling for the National League West in September. But yeah, it's not panic mode for me yet. I can guarantee you Snell is going to be better in July than he is now. This is not going to stay the same way. Snell is going to, things are going to click for him. This is technically his spring training. He signed so late. Jordan Montgomery, again, we could use that as an example, but again, he pitched against, no offense, but the Giants offense in his first outing. So let's see him go up against somebody like, the Dodgers or Cardinals offense. Who's Cardinals offense is kind of clicking right now too. So a lot of these teams who are clicking, see him go against them in his second start, and he'll have a bit of a rough outing. But yeah, I'm not in panic mode yet. I gotta have, if the Giants are near 500 in a month, I'll say, man, we got to start doing something. Maybe bring up some spark from AAA and Elliot Ramos, Luciano, who's not tearing it up. Luciano and Matos are not tearing it up in AAA. Elliot Ramos surely is. But again, if you want to bring him up, who do you take off of the roster? It's got to be Slater or Yaz, and the Giants aren't going to part with either one of those. That's not Farhan's motive right there to get rid of either of those guys who still have control.
Yeah.
Although
I mean, more
later
likely more than likely though, it's like somebody's going to get hurt and then you just got to be ready.
Yeah, these are old guys, man. We know how that goes. You're going to get hurt.
So here's a question, and here's something I've been thinking about. The Dodgers, I fully expected the Dodgers to come out of the gate like 16-7, right?
I really did too, yeah.
And they haven't. They've struggled a little bit, though their struggling's a little bit different than our struggling. And that is a little bit of a worry for me, is the Dodgers is that, their cold streak is basically playing 500 baseball. They're going to catch a wave like for 3 weeks and they're going to win 8 out of every 10 games. And right now is the opportunity for the Giants to go, okay, they're not hot right now. Let's kind of inch closer, because there's going to be a moment in time where they do get crazy hot and then they're going to pull away a little bit. So that's a little bit of my fear too, is like all of these other teams that are struggling in our division, the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, they are more talented player by player. Even though, I fully expected the Diamondbacks to kind of come out of the gate a little bit on fire because they got that taste last year of winning, and that actually hasn't happened. So I'm a little, if I was a Diamondbacks fan, I'd be a little concerned about that, because just the sort of that taste of success, you're like, oh, this is what we could have been. And now they're back to, playing 500 baseball. But those teams are more talented than the Giants. And so the cold start for the Giants kind of comes at the wrong time, because the way for the Giants to really get out ahead of this thing was to play well now, knowing that those teams are going to gel. And so maybe, I guess you'd have to ask Bob Melvin. Maybe Bob Melvin's thought process is, well, we're going to be a second half team anyways, because that's when we're going to have Robbie Ray. That's when we're going to have Alex Cobb. That's when a possibility for a big trade is going to happen, because that's the only way that I see the Giants offensively doing something. I said before the season even started, they needed a big bopper probably to play right field, and you're feeling a lot better if Slater and Yaz are your fourth outfielder instead of your starting outfielder. I don't know who that player is. I'm sure as cold starts for certain players happen, there may be opportunities for the Giants to trade, but it could be a Luciano. It could be one of their young arms that they're gonna need to give up to bring in a bat, because the way that they put their team together this season and last season, really, they're kind of playing like 1 year at a time.
Yeah.
And in that, if you're playing 1 year at a time with all of these guys with the ability to opt out, you have to be competitive or else you're doing it all wrong. So I fully expect them to go for it in the trade market, and that means we're going to lose, a player or two that I think people have been wanting to see up in up in Oracle. So that would be really my worry, is that they just wait too long, and by the time they get their act together, it's the second half of the season, and it may be too late, and then we have to do this in the offseason all over again, where we lose like 5 or 6 guys, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
who's ready for the for the 2-year with the 1-year opt-out? Come to the table. But I really do think that they need to have a good season this year. Like, it is so apparent that the fan base is just kind of like waiting. That we're sitting on our hands and going like, we're ready. We're ready to celebrate. We're ready to cheer. We're ready to go to that park. But you got to show me. You got to show us that you are a competitor and that you can play with some of these teams, because we're not just gonna jump up and down for 78 wins. And so that's
Yeah.
that's also the other thing with this team. And we'll see, as I'll get to see them in person this on Wednesday. So people listening to this
Nice.
on Tuesday, it'll be the next day. So I'm taking JJ out to a day game, and so I'll get to see them in person. When I watch the team, and I don't know if you have the same thought, when you watch the pieces, all the 9 individual pieces out on the field, you look at them and you go, this team should be good. Like, they have some pretty good pieces. Like, there may not be like that one outstanding player that you just draw a circle around. Like, if I'm
Right.
the opposing players, I'm like, okay, I got to get through like the first 3 hitters, and then we're cruising, right?
Yeah.
You don't really have to worry about anyone hitting a home run for one, after Soler. And then you're kind of like, okay, I'm not really scared. I'm not super scared. But at the same time, if the team does have some cohesion, you see the pieces and you see the possibility of putting together some innings and of the defense, like the infield defense, that left side of the infield, even though sometimes Nick Ahmed's he waits a lot, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you better throw this thing hard, man, because
Well,
you're waiting on
yeah.
this ball.
And he doesn't have a cannon either.
No.
That's the hard part, is when he backed up on that ground ball yesterday in the hole, and then and then he reared back and fired. I thought, I don't know if that ball's going to get there. And
I
and
thought
he
the
got
same
he
thing.
got the out by a step, and I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah.
wow. I mean, you charge that ball and you make the play, and it's an easy, like, you got it by 3 or 4 steps. But yeah, this team, they just talked about like a week ago. I think it was Bob Melvin, and he's mentioning, hey, this is going to be a team where it's going to be a different guy every night. That's how this team is made. But the problem is, this team can also have a no guy every night, and that does happen a little too often sometimes offensively. I mean, like yesterday was just one of those games where, they got screwed on a call in the ninth. Um, those types of things happen, but at that point, you've only got what, like 2 runs
Mhm.
in the ninth, and so to try to come back from that, and then they score 1, and now it's a 4-3 ball game. Um, you're leaving too much for the late innings. You're leaving too much for the matchups to say, okay, Wilmer's now going to come in to face a lefty, or Slater's going to come in to face a lefty, or Yaz will come in to face a righty in the ninth. I mean, these are guys off the bench they're good, but you'd rather have a little bit more firepower off the bench. And I don't mind having Yaz and Slater as a 4th outfielder. But I think there are probably some specialists out there, some
Yeah.
off the bench specialists that you could have in your, in your holster a little bit more. And again, year 1, right? Year 1 of the Bob Melvin regime. So he's kind of starting to learn these players as well. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? But like you said, you got Snell for 1 year. You've got Chapman for 1 year. So it's like this, I mean, we can't learn all of this stuff. And then next year, all of a sudden, now you're going to learn 4 or 5 new players. I know that's kind of the world of baseball, but if you're learning 4 or 5 bench players versus 4 or 5 everyday starters, that's a huge difference. And that kind of puts a lot on your manager to figure out, like, okay, well, who are these guys? What are their personalities? I got to learn them quickly.
Shelvin, by the way, says that the D-backs have some injuries that they're dealing with, which could be the reason for their slow start. By the way, do you know which team has scored the most runs in this early season?
Well, just not too long ago, I think it was the Guardians.
So the
Right?
Guardians, I think, have the best record in baseball.
And I thought they had the best plus run differential, but I don't know if they have the most runs at this point. I haven't looked.
So teams playing very well. Not surprised. The Orioles are 14-7.
They're just crushing home runs left and right.
Plus 29 run differential. The Guardians are 16-6, plus 52 run differential. Man. They're just not. The other teams are not scoring against their pitching. No. The Atlanta Braves 14-6, plus 35 run differential. So those are your teams that are kind of playing out of their minds. Milwaukee Brewers as well, 14-6, plus 35. But this is thanks to the Giants, by the way. The Arizona Diamondbacks lead the league in runs scored.
Well, they scored 17 the other night. Get out of here. That's, I mean, okay, how about 17? Let's minus 5. I'm going to make you do math here. No, 17 minus 12. Let's say they scored a normal 5 runs that night and beat us 5-1. Yeah. Are they still leading?
So
I'm making you do math. So take your number minus 12.
They would be around 119. No, they would not. It would be the Braves, the Guardians, the Dodgers, and the Orioles, and then the Diamondbacks. I think.
Okay. So yeah. You're welcome, Diamondbacks.
Exactly. So the Giants struggling to score runs. They have not yet scored 100 runs during this season, so that puts them on the low end. They are not quite the Oakland Athletics for their 65 runs scored this season, or the Chicago White Sox with their 45 runs scored and 3-18 record. So it could be worse. We could be White Sox fans right now, which makes me think, hey man, can we look up and down their roster? Is there, are there some guys to trade for? Can we get a nice right-handed bat there to pound some baseballs? I don't know who's available, but
call the Marlins and see if Jazz Chisholm would like to change locations, because he can play second base, he can play outfield. I mean, you'd have to give up a lot. One name I saw in an ESPN article about who teams would likely trade away at the trade deadline of this season. And they named Hayden Birdsong from the Giants. So it would take like a Hayden Birdsong, and some other players probably.
I mean, I imagine a Luis Robert Jr. is going to be a very high price tag on the trade market because he's only 26 years old. But that would be a guy who would immediately change the offense for the Giants, I think. Somebody like that.
But if you're a Giants fan and you're frustrated with strikeouts, it doesn't get better with Louis Bob. He does like to strike out. So be prepared.
Well, I mean, at least if he chases pitches near his eyeballs, I would have a, kind of like Nick Ahmed. I think I would have a little bit more confidence that Louis Bob can actually hit that ball out of the ballpark.
He would also hit home runs to rival that of Jorge Soler.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. But Soler, so his K percentage, just Louis Bob's K percentage this season is a nice hefty 38%.
Woo!
That is the highest of his career. His career total, he's usually like a 25.5%. But this year, He is. I mean, that whole team up and down the Chicago White Sox is just like the measles. I mean, the strikeout spread, getting left on base spreads, giving up home runs spreads.
Man,
That is a
he
bad
needs a
team.
change of scenery. He's just not a
Yeah,
happy guy right now.
I
We
know.
could provide that for him.
He would love it in San Francisco.
Yeah. So I mean that's something for us to kind of keep an eye on, and Jim Bowden and the Athletic is always putting lists together. I'm sure he'll have a list of possible trade targets early in the season. I'll keep my eye on that.
He
But I
always
do,
has wacky lists, but I love them.
yeah.
I
Some of them I'm kind of like, I don't know
You're
about
like,
this, Jim.
what?
I'm not sure about this one, Jim.
He's an old schooler, man. So yeah.
Hey, but he gives us a lot of information to
Oh,
read
yeah.
up on it and talk about. So I watched. I had the game on. So I'll tell you, I was at the gym, and I was doing. You and I are big fans of Apple Fitness Plus.
Love it.
So Apple Fitness Plus does not work on an iPad.
Right.
So I had
Which
my
is
phone.
odd.
I know it's weird. I had my phone. I was at the gym, had my phone running Apple Fitness Plus, and I was doing a cycling workout. And so I had my iPad behind my phone, and I had the baseball game with the sound turned down on my iPad, watching the Apple Fitness Plus cycling workout on my phone. And Jung Hoo Lee turns on a baseball, and he just urinates all over this baseball. And the fans think that we're going to have back-to-back splash hits.
Right.
I don't know how many feet foul it was, but this dude, like, when he hit it, I was just like, where has this guy been all my life?
Yeah.
And then it went foul, but still I was like, God, the ability that he has to spray the ball around like he does, and then to turn on a ball like that is amazing. And the thing about him, and the thing why, is he is the antithesis of the other contracts that they've given out. We're going to be able to see JH Lee kind of grow as a player and grow into whatever he turns out to be, which I think is going to be a really good baseball player. And I started to hear Kruk, gosh, just, thinking about it. What are we going to do when there's no more Kruk and Kipe? I don't even want to think about it.
Let's not go there.
It's just like the soundtrack to our baseball fandom. And so I'm starting to hear Kruk, and he's starting to talk about Ichiro and how Ichiro came in and adapted and became this certain player, and all of a sudden was just able to do X, Y, and Z. If I may be wrong about this, but I think Ichiro was a few years older than Jung Hoo when he came to play in the States, right?
Yeah.
He had a few more games under his belt. So, I don't expect Jung Hoo to turn into Ichiro today. I've called him a poor man's Ichiro. It doesn't have to happen today, but you can sort of see the skill set that he has and kind of the coolness that he plays under. It's just one thing about this season that gives me some hope, and it keeps me not overreacting to stuff, because I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna get to see this guy play baseball for 5 years, and I like what I've seen.
He has an
far.
opt out after 3.
Oh, does he? Okay,
yeah, but still, they may try to rework a deal by then, but it is Boris, so who knows? But yeah, at least 3 for sure.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on him early on?
I love him, man. The second we signed him, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be fun." He's batting third tonight against the Mets. This is a Monday night game, and so he's kind of worked his way into the third spot. He'll bat lead off, but then he'll pop into the third spot, which is awesome. Looking at his StatCast numbers, because I love StatCast. It's always fun to look at. His base running run value is 98 out of 100, 98th percentile. His expected batting average is actually 85th percentile. He's hitting 282, but his expected batting average is 295. His whiff percentage, you're going to love this one, 99th percentile.
Yeah.
I mean, he does not strike out, and we've seen that. His K percentage, whiff percentage is what's that?
He barely swings and misses.
No, he doesn't. And that's what the whiff percentage is. And K percentage, 98th percentile. And this this is kind of surprising, and we've seen it, and we've seen splashes of it, and we're going to see more of it. But his arm strength is in the 95th percentile in the majors.
Oh, wow.
And that's pretty awesome. Sprint speed is 87%. We saw that on the double. I think it was on Saturday when he hit that double, and he went from like home to second in 7 seconds, which is, I guess, was like in the 95th percentile in the majors this year. But just looking at overall StatCast, one of the things that he's up there in the league in is he's 12th in the majors in hard hit balls at 95 miles an hour or more. He has 37 of them. And the leader is Ohtani with 47. So he's only 10 behind. And really, if he had 3 more, he'd be in 5th place. So that's, that tells you how tight that is at the top. But yeah, he crushes the baseball when he hits it, but he's not like the power hitter. He's not that foul home run that we saw yesterday was a glimpse of what he can do. Maybe as he gets older and maybe as he puts on a little bit more weight, if he does, if he bulks up a little bit, maybe he's going to be like a 25 home run guy. He's on pace for, God, I don't know, like 10 to 12 right now. But spraying the ball around the field just not too long ago, wasn't he hitting like 230, 240, and all of a sudden now he's 282. So he's on a quiet tear, just kind of like Patrick Bailey's on a quiet tear. Lamont Wade Jr. is on a quiet tear. So those are you going to be your leaders of the team, like Jung Hoo Lee going forward? When he is playing well offensively, the team is going to click. I think he's going to be one of those guys that everybody kind of looks to as a contagious hitter. When he's going 3 for 4 in a ball game, everybody goes, he makes it look so easy. I'd like to get some hits also. I see Jung Hoo Lee on base. I want to drive him in. I want to see him go first to third. I want to go see him go from second to home. I mean, there was a single when he was on second the other day in Miami, I think it was, and he was just flying like a gazelle around third. Scored no problem standing up. And can we get more players like him down the line? Are we going to get, can we get a Ha-Seong Kim who actually destroys me in MLB The Show? I can't pitch to that guy. I don't know what it is, but I'd like the real Ha-Seong Kim on our team. I love Tyro Estrada, but having that added depth on the infield, Ha-Seong Kim can play short. Tyro can play second, and then Marco Luciano can eventually be an outfielder or DH or whatever it is he needs to be. But Jung Hoo Lee, I think going forward is really going to be that catalyst.
He is, I think, even as he grew, like he's going to be so good. I think his walks are going to come up as well because he only swings at strikes. Teams are going to pitch him in that they're going to try and get him to swing outside of his strike zone, and he's not going to do it. And I think his walks are going to go up too. So I think his on base percentage will be much higher, years into his career in the big leagues. You got to remember he's seeing these pitchers for the first time ever.
Right.
Think about Yaz and how long Yaz has been on the Giants. He's seen a lot of the same pitchers over and over and over. They got tons of data. He can go on the iPad and go like, oh, I faced this guy from the Diamondbacks like 14 times, and here's what I've done. Here's where he mostly pitches me up and in, or he mostly pitches me down and away. So Lee, as the pitchers are building up data on him, but at the same time, he's building up his own data on the pitchers. And I think, as he grows into a player, I think he's also going to be a really good on base guy. And I mean, I think that's what the Giants think as well. That's why they invested so much money in him.
Well, and you got to look at it too. What is kind of the main pitch right now in the majors? It's the sinker. It's the 2-seam sinker type of fastball that goes like 95 miles an hour. You can go 90 to 95. How much of that did he see in Korea, and how much of that is he digesting right now and really understanding, like, okay, starting to get the movement on that pitch, starting to understand that pitch, starting to see release points on guys, because that's a big thing too, is release points. You could, I mean, you look at Kyle Harrison, the release point on his four-seam fastball is 3/4 and it rises, and it's a nasty pitch, and it's what he gets his outs on. He gets his strike. He also gives up home runs on that pitch too. but like you said, I mean, you live up in the zone, somebody's going to elevate that pitch.
Yeah, he's going to win with that pitch, and sometimes he's going to lose with that pitch.
Exactly. And if you're giving up solo home runs, so be it, But again, the Giants need to score runs. So, but yeah, I think Jung Hoo Lee is good. He's just going to grow. I mean, he's just going to get better and better. And he's ours. That's the fun thing. He's not a Cub. He's not a Padre.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I'm really excited about. I want to see the handsomeness in person on Wednesday. So
I like what Davis has to say there. I'd love to see Jung Hoo Lee and Ellie De La Cruz in a race around the base paths. Ellie De La Cruz, the other day I was watching a game. That dude is ridiculous. He steals second. Well, first he singles up the middle. Then he steals second with ease. Then he steals third on the next pitch. And the catcher is so flustered, he throws it into left field, and then Ellie scores. So I mean, it's
Ricky. That's Ricky Henderson-ish.
Yeah, and he went on the first pitch. So he went on first pitch. And so 2 pitches later after a single, he scored and they're up 1-0. So,
or for maybe old school Reds fans, 1987 Eric Davis.
Oh my God, he was ridiculous. If he would have stayed healthy, that guy, man.
He also just one of the coolest looking players. The way.
He
played with Giants for like 1 year or something, or 2 years or whatever.
Yeah. That standing straight up batting stance and just ripping home runs, ripping doubles, and flying around the bases. Oh,
yeah, just so cool. Before we get to our drink and then our player of the week and then kind of the outlook for the rest of this week, the Giants play in 35 minutes from us recording right now. So those of you who are listening to the podcast, the game will have already happened. That's just the unfortunate thing for us recording on Mondays, but they also have some Mondays off. So this is probably still the best day for us to record. Patrick Bailey, he had a heck of a game. I think it was on Saturday. He almost hit for the dang cycle.
Yeah.
And, I don't think we expect him to be a middle of the order hitter. So anything that he does from a power perspective is just kind of icing on the cake because he's really good defensively, even though, sometimes he makes some throws where I'm like, dude, you probably didn't need to throw that. And if you threw that, maybe not sidearm. Like, you need to drop down and show.
He gets a little fancy. He gets a little Benito Santiago sometimes. And you're like, I don't think you need to do that. I mean, yeah, because a lot of times too, he'll drop down and just kind of fling it out to center field, and you're like, the guy was about a step away from being safe at second base, so that was not a necessary.
Yeah, and I mean, just a sidearm throw in general, it's going to have some dive to it, no matter what. So
yeah.
Michael Rotter, by the way, thank you for watching. Says J.H. Lee brings needed fire to the team. Keep him in the leadoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, I love leadoff hitters. I was a leadoff hitter. So I love leadoff hitters. I played center field. So that's my thing. I miss the leadoff hitters. I mean, you look at the Phillies and they're batting Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot. Is that quintessential leadoff hitter material? Not at all. So but that's the problem now, right now though, with the Giants is they don't really have anybody else who is a strong 3-spot candidate. I mean, Jung Hoo Lee puts the ball in play.
He literally might already be their best hitter.
I think so. And so if you can get guys on base in front of him, you have more chances of scoring runs. I mean, it's that Will Clark effect, batting third. Will Clark had the power. He had batting average. I mean, he would make contact. He was hard to strike out.
Get on base.
Yeah, and just get on base. And that's the whole thing. So tonight is what? Slater, and then Estrada, and then Lee, I believe. 1, 2, 3. I got to look again. But yeah, so I agree. I would love to have Jung Hoo Lee in the leadoff spot, but I think we need to have somebody who's a complete hitter at the 3 hole also, and we just don't have that right now.
Yeah, there's not one guy you can kind of lock in there. I would like to see a little bit more consistency in the batting order, but nobody has kind of jumped out and said, this is my spot. You
Right.
probably want Soler 4-5 just because he's going to come up with runners
Sure.
on, but he's got some crazy stat where he's driven in two guys maybe with runners in scoring position all year long,
It's
and
not good.
I'm watching him, and I have the utmost confidence that he's going to hit the ball really hard,
Yeah.
and you could just see him. He'll swing, and the ball's just popped up, and he just like throws his bat. Like, come on, like give
Yeah.
me a break. There was one. It was probably in the first week of the season. He was so out in front on one pitch, and he hit it so dang hard. I was like, I don't know how you can hit it that hard by being that out in front of it. Like he hooked it into like the third deck, like just crazy. Like barely got past the third baseman, in parallel to where the third baseman would play. And I was just like, this guy's just got crazy bat speed, hits the ball hard, and I just imagine it's a timing thing with him. And
Do you think he's trying to do too much right now? Because I mean, when you look at it, like you said, the runners in scoring position, right? Chapman's got 4 home runs. Chapman, Conforto, and Soler all have 4 home runs, right? Chapman's got 12 runs driven in. Conforto's got 15 runs driven in. Soler has 6. So that, I mean, either guys are not getting it on base in front of him, or he's pressing, and those solo home runs are happening when there's not that pressure,
yeah,
and he's up to bat with nobody on, and he can look for his pitch. So it kind of feels like a pressing issue.
it's I'm sure some of it is just him acclimating, again, kind of what we talked about in the beginning of this show. Kind of the whole team is sort of acclimating to the newness of what the Giants are in 2024. And I've this stuff kind of evens itself out. I'm sure he'll go on a tear and he'll just hit everything on the nose, and we'll just be like, oh, this is the guy that we remember. And everybody, I think, expects that to happen as well. They kind of expect him to be a 30 home run guy and to be in that 4 slot. Conforto, like you brought up a good point. Conforto, the numbers speak for themselves. He is hitting well, and I think the thing that I would like to see from him, the quality of ABs, because there's a thing now. I'm sure some, maybe the analytics would say differently, but you going back to your Will Clark comparison, like one of the things that Will Clark provided in the 3 hole was a confidence, right?
Mhm.
Like
Sure.
he came up, he looked like there was no pitcher who was going to dominate him in an AB. And I watched Conforto, and I'm like, okay, you're hot. So why are you turning on a pitch that you don't really like this pitcher's wasting this pitch, and you're kind of giving it up instead of waiting for the pitch that you can drive. And this is normal baseball, right? He's not
Sure.
doing this in every AB, but it's just some of the times where I'm looking at him going like, look, you can establish yourself as the 3 hitter on this team. You're hitting the baseball well. You're put in these positions to produce, and he doesn't act like that guy yet when he's at
Yeah.
the plate. So some of that may come, that as he gets a little bit more comfortable his second year back from the injury. But I would like to see a little bit more confidence. I would like him to exude a little more confidence. Like, dude, you're hitting the baseball really well. Now when these positions come up, you know, kind of show that on your face, with the when this team is like unfortunately unable to score runs. It's like, oh, like you want the feeling of when Conforto comes up, it's like, oh, okay, thankfully he's up, because we know he's going to do something positive. And
Right.
it's kind of up and down right now, but I would like to see that from him, because if he can lock in that 3 hole spot, then you can keep Jung Hoo hitting leadoff, or Jung Hoo hitting number 2. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're playing around with these spots, and I think some of it is because they've just not made sure that, they're locking themselves into it in Melvin's eyes.
Yeah,
Which
and I agree with that too, and I think I think K percentage plays a lot into that too. You want your three hitter to make contact. And Conforto's kind of showing it this year a little bit. His K percentage is 22%. And I think that's lower than most. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of his average over his career is 23.6. So he's kind of at that average point. So if that can come down a little bit, I can see him kind of maybe trying to steal that 3-hole spot. Jung Hoo Lee's, by the way, is 9.5%, which is absolutely sparkling. And Austin Slater, another one who has a low K percentage, but he's not an everyday player. Nick Ahmed has a low K percentage. You don't want him in the 3-hole. Looking at other candidates, Tyro Estrada, 25.6% K rate, 230 hitter. Honestly, I mean, I would be fine with Lamont Wade Jr. batting third going forward as well. So you could go Jung Hoo Lee and then get Lamont Wade Jr. in the 3-hole. Conforto stay at 5. He could also bounce to 3. I mean, there's a lot of things this lineup can do. But there's also a lot of similarities to the hitters up and down this lineup that you're like, nobody's really differentiating themselves.
I mean, just based on base percentage, you could flip flop Lee and Wade if you
Yeah.
believe Jung Hoo's going to hit for a little bit more power. But because Wade gets on base, he also has a good eye, but he also doesn't really instill that fear in the other team. And I think that's what they need. Soler does for sure, but does Conforto, does Wilmer, does Chapman? That's the thing is like, I just don't know who instills that fear in the other manager or the other opposing pitcher. It's like, yeah, these guys are good, but no one's gonna hit a home run here. Like we're fine pitching to these guys. That they need somebody like that who's gonna just kind of instill that fear behind Soler. So
yeah, for sure.
all right. Let's talk about our drink of choice tonight. I mentioned last time we recorded, which was 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to get through some of the mixed stuff that I'd bought like last year, and so I'm still finishing off the old fashions from your spot from Trader Joe's.
There you go.
I actually did something a little bit different. I poured a seltzer, a mandarin orange seltzer with the old-fashioned mix to kind of, freshen it up a little bit, make it a little bit more spring kind of a drink. So that was really good. And they blended pretty well together. They mixed really well together. So I was happy with how that came out. So I may do that again next week because I still have a ton of it. So
yeah, old-fashioned
is refreshing.
Old-fashioned is really citrus based. So anytime you add like an orange to it, it's really good. It's super tasty. I went with the T to C because I want to get this team going. I know we were over 500 last week. I want to be way over 500 this week. So yeah, I went with the T to C. I forgot to bring in the tequila, but it's Terramana and the ice is melted because the problem is I forgot that I ran out of the grapefruit Zevia citrus in the fridge. And so all I had was a 6-pack of it sitting in the hot garage,
warm,
not in the fridge. So yeah, it killed my ice. So yeah, I'm trying to kickstart this team a little bit, man. So it's like 2 ounces of Terramana silver tequila, the Zevia grapefruit citrus, and a couple wedges of lime. And I drank those. I had a couple of those over this weekend and last weekend because we were watching, and it looked like it was really, really hot. We were watching all the Coachella stuff, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because YouTube, actually, the Coachella YouTube channel broadcasts everything live. I mean, so we got to watch everybody, which was kind of fun. So we got to see No Doubt, got to see Sublime with Bradley Knoll, who passed away. His son, who's 28 years old now, that was the age that Bradley Knoll passed away in the late 90s, 96, I think it was. And so he's the lead singer and lead guitarist of the band. And so that was kind of fun to watch. And Ray, who is an R&B artist, she is fantastic. Raye. If you haven't heard of her, she was on Saturday Night Live like 3 weeks ago, and then did 2 sets at Coachella. She is my new jam.
I'm gonna have to pull that one up because
It's
as you know, it's Taylor Swift all day and all night.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot. Taylor Swift dropped a new album on Friday, and yeah, this house has been all about it as well. So, yeah.
By the way, did No Doubt say that they're recording a new album?
I don't know. I did not hear that part of it, but they sounded good live. Gwen Stefani is very much into like acting on stage, which was a little bit of a turn off. We were kind of like, oh, what is she doing? Just sing the songs, but she was, yeah, she was kind of getting into it. But it was fun to watch, very nostalgic. We had a good time with it. But yeah, if they record a new album, I think that'd be really cool. I'd be up for that.
Gosh, when was this? I saw No Doubt at the Mountain View Shoreline. I saw them at the Shoreline. This has to have been like 15 years ago now that I think about it.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about this story, I was like, oh yeah, it wasn't that long ago. And then I kind of did the math. Like, wait a second.
Everything is that long ago now that we think about it. Yes.
Yes. So yeah, I do remember seeing them with some friends and family. All right. Player of the week. Last week we did the vote, but we didn't have a show. And I'm going to get in the habit of posting our player of the weeks on Instagram. We had a nice little layout for the graphic this year.
Nice.
Last week was Lamont Wade. So I will post this week's and last week's kind of in the same post on the BSPN_media Instagram account. So who won this week?
Well, let me double check the numbers. I know who it was, but if anything drastically changes, I didn't want to say anything, but yeah. Okay. So it's who we thought. So I threw up 3 names again. Patrick Bailey, who had a 200 WRC plus. That's a weighted run creation plus. Basically tells you how they are with scoring runs, driving in runs, base running, all kinds of cool stuff goes into that stat. 353 average on the week, had a home run, 4 ribs, and the bobblehead day bomb. Because anytime you hit a home run on your bobblehead day, you're probably going to get on here. So
yeah, there you go.
But he came in tied for, I guess, second, because I only put 3 players up there. Camilo Doval, 3 games, 2 saves on the week, 3 1/3 innings pitch, no runs, 1 hit, 6 Ks. And the xFIP stat that we look at sometimes? He had a negative xFIP stat. And I've never seen that before, because the 3 1/3 innings, 1 hit, no walks, 6 strikeouts. I don't think anybody really made contact or hard contact. So he had a negative xFIP, which was kind of fun to see. The winner of the player of the week this week is the man we've been talking a lot about today, is Jung Hoo Lee. 191 WRC plus, 391 average, really turning it on. A home run, 5 runs scored, 3 RBI. Tried to steal a base in a key situation. I think it was yesterday. It was the 8th inning. Tried to steal a run. I think they were down 3-2 at that point. Barely got thrown out at second. It was a perfect throw, and the throw tailed right to him. So the shortstop was able to grab it, throw the tag on him really quickly. If that throw was off by a hair, he would have been safe. So good spot to run, good opportunity, awesome effort. He's fast, and we're going to see a lot more stolen bases from him going forward. But that's our player of the week this week.
All right, there we have it. So check out the BSPN_media Instagram account. We'll also put those things on Twitter at BSPN Media, the graphics. So let's end this show.
Don't forget the redheaded stepchild threads.
Oh
We're
yeah,
gonna put
yeah.
on
You're
Threads.
posting everything on Threads. I forgot about that. Well,
Yeah.
they're not, redhead
It's
stepchild
getting there.
from an engagement standpoint, but if you
Yeah.
want to just go and hang out and not be bombarded with bots, that is a
That's
nice
true.
place.
That's a cool place. It's cool because you know what? I go there for my jazz vinyl on Threads because I follow a lot of jazz vinyl dudes on there, and there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool pictures and sound and things like that. I like Threads. It's kind of a chill place to hang out.
Okay, so let's look at the schedule for this week. As of right now, Giants play the Mets in about 15 minutes as of our recording. It is University of San Francisco night.
There you go, man. It was San Jose State night on Friday.
And that's the game that they got killed.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I know.
Tomorrow night is St. Mary's College night. And then Wednesday is a day game. It doesn't look like there's every single day this week, there's some sort of giveaway or some sort of special night, except the game that I'm going to during the day. There's nothing.
Of course.
Giants and the Mets, 3 games in a row. The Mets started the season off very poorly and then went on quite a run, and they are 12-9 right now. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games, and they are sitting third in the NL East behind the Braves and the Phillies, so they're playing some pretty good baseball. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates come into town for 3 on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the Pirates themselves are kind of, they're kind of looking Giantsy-ish. They're around 500. They are currently 12-11. And, everybody right now is somewhat close to 500, Giants included. So those are, this is the kind of week where you have all your games at home and you want to take advantage of a 4-3 week. So it'd be a nice game to go. Nice week to go 5-2.
I think so.
Or actually 4-2. Win 2 out of 3, and win 2 out of 3 in both series, and come back the next week. I guess who do they play the following? They go into Boston next Wednesday.
Oh, there we go. Nice.
Go into Boston, closer to 500. That would be nice. I would like to see them take advantage of being at home and get another winning week this week.
Yeah, for sure. Pittsburgh's playing some rough baseball, but yeah, why does it always feel like we are the cure for what ails you when it comes to when you're playing bad baseball? That kind of seems to be.
Yeah, they're 3-7 out of the last 10.
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating. And I think I'm going to make a plea to MLB.com. I think you can do better. I think your headline tonight of win looks to deliver win for the Giants, I think that could be better. I think you can do better. I think your bots and your AI are awful. So
you know what you just reminded me of?
Yeah.
For some reason, don't tell me why.
Okay.
Or don't ask me why.
No, I'm not gonna.
1987, San Diego Padres had Marvell Wynn.
Oh,
Do you remember Marvell Wynn?
I remember Marvell Wynn, yeah.
And they had Tony Gwynn. So you had Wynn and Gwynn on the same team.
Gwynny Winnie.
The Padres beat the Giants in one game in 1987. I think it was 87. The Mercury News headline was Padres win with win, not Gwynn.
Oh no.
So Marvell Wynn somehow got the hit to win the game and not Tony Gwynn. So for whatever reason, I remember that headline. I don't
and know. So you're saying now we're going back to 1987 with our headline writing.
Hey, if the Giants win with Keaton Wynn tonight, MLB can write whatever the hell headline they want.
That's true, but I just don't like the going into it with win looks to deliver win. Try harder.
Maybe we can blame that one on AI.
Yeah, I think so. 100%.
All right, so that'll be it from here. We will be back next week. When is our next Bleacher Report show?
Our next Bleacher Report is actually this coming Monday, a
Okay,
week from today. Yeah,
we're gonna
that's
do.
one. Yeah, and then we tried to. So we have some coming up in May also, and we were able to move those off of Mondays to Wednesdays. And I think this one might have been a little too late for us to move.
So we'll
So
we'll,
this
we'll
is going to be
figure out. Obviously, we put the Bleacher Report shows up on YouTube and on the audio feed as well. So we may do that as the show next week, and then kind of play it by ear in the middle of the week, see if there's anything
yeah,
else to talk about.
sure.
That's probably the best route for next week is to do that. But yeah, we're gonna have like 3 weeks upcoming very soon where we're going to be doing 2-week shows. So
Yeah.
there will be lots of content on YouTube and on our podcast feed. And like I said, Rod and I will be up on Friday night talking about nights 1 and 2 of the draft.
And night one
NFL
is
draft.
Thursday, right?
Right.
Okay.
So basically rounds 1, 2, and 3 we'll have some interest. Hopefully we'll have something to talk about. I don't know. Before we get out of here, what do you think your Rams are going to do? I mean, Aaron Donald retired.
Yeah, I'm not good at this. When it comes to the draft, I don't pay attention until oh hey. I don't pay attention until after the Rams draft a player,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go and look at that player's highlights on YouTube from their college years. That's kind of how I do it. But I would assume, and everything I've heard, Peter Schrager from NFL Network has reported, and he's really good friends with Sean McVay. They're super tight. He has mentioned that he would not be shocked at all that if the Rams kept their first round pick, that they definitely go offense. Rams fans are leaning tackle because we did so much in the offseason in the free agency market with shoring up that offensive line. Because I think Rams fans are like, hey, now is the time to protect Stafford. The guy ain't a spring chicken. So let's let him sling the ball around as much as he wants to. And the only way to do that is to protect him. So I think they probably go offensive line if they hang on to that first round pick.
Interesting. Yeah, the Niners are very much in need of offensive line help as well, but they draft so late that all the good tackles are going to be gone by then, or at least all the money tackles. There will be lots of tackles who will be available just because
Sure.
it's a position of need for every team. So
Yeah.
all righty. So we will be back next week. Maybe not doing a live stream, but there will be content on the network and on YouTube. And if something happens, then we will bust out and do a kind of like an emergency show for next week. But
So you mean if we go like 6-0 or 7-0?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all right. I like that. I can do that.
Yeah, but we'll tweet out the link to the Bleacher Report live stream if you want to check that out. Just check our Twitter. We'll tweet that out before we do that. For Brad, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.